Wait, where are you? Okay, this is strange.
I need to admit people. Wait, you could do that,
I
right?
do that, yeah, that's fine. Let me just, I'm gonna minimize that so that gets out of your way. So we're gonna do view. Where am I clicking on? Okay, gallery view, I guess. Now I'm gonna do share screen.
Oh, good, right, yeah, share. Sorry about that. Okay, then we want to make that small so I can see what the hell I'm doing.
There you go. And you can just slide this over. This is just
Right, that moves, right? That moves. All right, we're gonna wait 1 minute. I said Frank could get a cup of coffee.
Okay, man of your word.
I'm not gonna start till Frank is here with his coffee. Gosh darn it. If anyone has any questions who are on Zoom, if you can just put it in the thing and Ashley will tell me. Here's Frank with his coffee, Ron somewhere eating cupcakes. All right, let's get started.
Don't come for me today.
Oh, God.
All right, so some of you guys were at the land class the other day, some of you weren't. This is kind of a continuation of that. I'd like to think of this as a workshop and not just a class. That means that questions are encouraged. The subject of new construction is really big. Yes, Ron?
Questions even for me?
Even from Ron, except you have to keep them under 10 words.
Perfect.
All right?
Do my best.
It's a really wide subject. I mean, you could get a master's degree in the subject, okay? So what I want to do is attack two different angles and kind of hopefully maybe I'll get a little sense of the audience, which is more relevant to you. So one angle is you want to be a listing agent, and as a listing agent, you're working with builders, you want to work with builders, you want to do that business, okay? The other side is you are a buyer's agent and you're selling new construction. Okay, so they're kind of two separate issues. They do crisscross each other. There's some of the same concerns, okay? But let's see how far we can get in an hour. And, you know, if people want to do some follow-up classes on some of the more specifics, I'm happy to get into that. All right. First question, why would you as a listing agent want to work with a builder? Anybody?
Because they have houses.
They have houses. You know what? You know what you said? House what? House as z, plural. I recommend to any agent, particularly if there's new agents on the Zoom, you want to do business everywhere and anywhere that you can, of course. But having some specialty, some acre of diamond, something that you can concentrate on and become prolific in and be known for, okay, will really be a really solid foundation for your business. Okay, I chose new construction. Okay, it is hard. Okay, but very few agents want to do it. So there's like no competition. Literally in the Andovers, there's 2 or 3 other agents that I think would have the same level of experience or expertise that I have. Okay, certainly in our office, the Physicales do for sure. I mean, Joey's a builder himself, so. So the idea is it's repeat business. Okay, when you get now, how do you get this relationship with the builder? It's hard. Okay, one way to do it is that you bring them buyers and you get to know them. Okay, another way though is you can go to back when they have them again, I suppose, which will be soon. public meetings, okay? Every community builder has to go through the permit land, takes years sometimes. So show interest in that. You can read in the newspaper or online newspaper about public hearings and things such as that, all right? But the number one way, there's only one thing that builders really want from you.
Sell their house.
No.
Buy it.
Land. They want land, okay? If you bring a builder a piece of land, that builder will work with you, okay? They will probably list that property with you. Ron,
Probably could, might, how can I make sure it's guaranteed? I'm gonna give you this land and you're gonna give me the list. I want it. I'm not even gonna offer it to him unless it's, here's a I have something to offer you. I'm not gonna tell you about it till you sign this potential further list.
you know, it's about building relationships,
Trust.
all right? So
You know,
now,
you can't trust builders.
one tricky question
Like
is,
what? Don't trust anyone.
oftentimes, you know, when I have a piece of land and I want to bring it to a builder, you know, it becomes a little question of what we call double dipping on the commission. Okay, so you have a piece of land that's, you know, 300 and you're going to sell a house that's 900. Do you get a commission on the 300 and then get a commission on the 900, but also includes the 300? This is a business decision that you make. I would generally, with builders that I work with, if I know 100% I'm getting the listing because of relationship, okay, I will often pass the commission. Okay, if it's not a builder that I'm 100% confident, okay, or the other way to do it, of course, is you take the commission on the land, but then you take a reduced commission on the sale of the house for that percentage of the land. That's probably a better way to approach it. Okay, but Ron,
I'm sorry, one challenge.
this is, by the way, two.
I
That's
know,
question
I'm
number
sorry,
2.
I'm sorry,
You
guys.
got one more.
I tend to offer some good talk.
Good, good.
I think, you know, for me though, if it's all about like, am I representing the seller of the land? And then I approach the builder, then I'm really the seller's agent. I don't want to get too messy.
Well, we talked about that a lot in the land costs. Right. Okay. Let's take a look at a little spreadsheet. Okay. Now, one of the biggest problems that people have, agents call me all the time. Oh, what about this? Can I bring this to a builder? And I'm like, and I say, okay, well, does it make sense? If you keep bringing things to a builder that makes no sense, and they're just going to think you're an idiot. All right. So you need to have some sense of what the value equation is. And let's take a look at what that might look like. Right. I made so many calculators. All right. So this is just a, you know, very, very rough, guys, but this is how I want you to think about it. You can do it your own way. Okay. So let's say there's a piece of land and it's 300, or maybe it's a knockdown. Okay. If you have a knockdown and you got to take something down, you can figure at least $25,000 to get rid of this stuff, whatever's there. Could be more, could be less, probably not less. Okay. So the first question you have to ask yourself, and we talked about in the land costs, is, okay, so what would someone build at this piece of property? Okay, so let's say they're going to build a 3,000 square foot house. It's going to cost the builder $140 a foot. So he's got to be into the land for 300, pay $420 to build the house. Maybe there's some extraordinary land development costs. Is it a really long driveway? Is there a bunch of stone outcroppings? You know you're going to have to blast the crap out of the lot in order to build a house, all right?
Water stuff.
All right, there's going to be some amount of now juice. Everyone knows juice means interest that they have to pay. That's really variable. You can take it out of the equation if you want. Okay, but I just put a 3% in there. It would be very rare in a house with this much investment. It would be less than that. Okay, but there are builders that pay cash. But if they're paying cash, then they ought to be calculating what their opportunity cost of the money is. So that brings me up to 751.9. I'm going to say that the builder's got to make a profit margin of at least 15% on their investment. That means that they got to sell this house for $864 if they sold it on their own, but they're not going to sell it on their own. They're going to hire you because you're so wonderful, and you're going to charge 5%, which means you got to get $907, $919 for the builder to make a measly 15% profit if all these other numbers are true. So when I bring this $300,000 piece of land to a builder, and he asks me, what can I build there? And you tell him, well, I think you can sell the house for $750 or $8. What's going to happen? gonna say, I'm not paying 300 for the land. Okay, so if I can only sell the house for 800, I better only pay, 250 for the land. All right, now I'm down to 845. I can sell the house. Yeah, I guess. All right. All right, and this is so when you're gonna talk to a builder, and we talked about this in the land courts a little bit, and you say, hey, here's a piece of land that you should be interested in. They have two questions. What should I build there? What meaning how big, how expensive, how fancy, okay? And how much can I sell it for? And therefore, then you do a calculation of what the land's worth. Okay, so when I bring land to different builders that I work with, and now I'm kind of whittled down, I work mostly with one builder at this point. He shoves 5 to 10 things a week in front of me. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? How much can I pay for this? How much can I pay for that? Okay, and this is exactly the analysis I do. Now, you have to look at this sales price, and you have to do some research. You have to do some comps. You have to look at neighborhoods. It can be tricky though, because new construction can be a leading indicator. Okay, when you got one house on the side of the road, you're not necessarily establishing value, but if you have a new subdivision somewhere, you may do breakthrough value. Okay, and the really good example is the subdivision I recently finished in Melrose. The local agents told him maybe he could sell houses for, 700,000 or 800,000. Okay, our last one we sold for 1.6 1/2. Okay, we created a market. Okay, so when you have a subdivision, you can create a market. If you have 3 lots next to each other, you can create a market. Okay, if you're taking one tear down or one lone house on a through street somewhere, it's kind of hard to create a market.
So John, they generally want to get 15% or more.
That's about low. I mean, that's a little on the low side. There will be builders who'll take it. Now, look, another builder might say, well, I can build for, $132 a foot. Now, today you can't, believe me, but maybe in a few months you can. And then I can get away with 2,900 square feet. I'm going to use this shitty material instead of that good material. Something like that. All right, let's take a look. Let's shift gears a little bit. One of the things you're going to look at when you're talking to builders or selling new construction, you can look at site plans. Okay, there's a plot plan. That's something that a surveyor does. Okay, like a mortgage plot plan that shows where a house is on a lot. A site plan, okay, is something that really shows what can be done on the lot. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I thought it would be interesting to, I don't know why I'm not coming back to where I want to come back to. It'd be interesting to take a quick look at a site plan. Now, these are the kind of things, I don't want you to walk away thinking that you're going to know everything about this, because I don't know everything about this, and I've looked at tons of them. Okay, and I intentionally chose one that's a little complicated. All right, but you're often going to be faced with something like this. Now, maybe you're the buyer's agent and you're looking at this. Maybe you've got a builder. Now, sometimes sellers will get a site plan done like this, okay? And then they're looking to sell the land, okay? What this says, and you can see in the corner, I don't want to go back, it's approved. It's got a stamp on it, which means this can be done. So the things you want to look at, you see it says proposed dwelling. That is called a building envelope. That does not mean that you have to build a house that big. It means you have to build a house not bigger than that. And it has to be in there.
What does it cost to get a site plan done?
It could be $5,000 or $6,000. Okay. Let's look at some other things on this plan. You see it says TF and CF. This can be relevant to you as a buyer's agent. That's the top of the foundation, and that's the cellar floor. That's telling you how high the basement's going to be. TF and CF. The other thing you can look at is right here by the garage. It says a number. It says it's 118. Okay. Now these are relative numbers. You don't have to care what 118 means. Cellar floor. But you can see over here that says 122 and 124.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you compare it to 118 as the cellar floor. That means that this front door here, okay, is 6 feet higher than the cellar, than the garage floor and the cellar floor. Okay, this is telling you what the lot looks like.
So they're not going that far into the back.
So, and then you can see in the front, it goes 124, 126. So basically, this has got a hill in the front. Okay, now in the back, you can look at this line, it says 116. So 116 is the ground in the back, okay? And the top of the foundation is 125. What does that tell me? What can happen in between? It's a walkout basement. Now, again, I'm not expecting you guys to be experts in this, but what might be helpful to you is to know to ask the questions. All right, now, if someone says, I would love to buy this house and I have plans for a great big in-ground pool. Good idea?
This house?
No.
No, very bad idea, very bad. We can have a little ducky pond pool if you want on top. This over here, this is what a septic system looks like. Okay, we got a septic tank, and these are leach fields, and then there are reserve fields. All new construction has to have a full reserve field, all right?
There's what you said?
It says reserve, the word reserve.
Oh, I see.
Now,
Okay.
does,
So-
if someone's rebuilding a septic system, does it now have to come in and apply
No.
for full reserve?
When you are rebuilding a septic system in an existing house, there's a lot more leeway. They would still love to have a reserve, but they can't force you to have a reserve. Okay. So if you're looking to sell this property, this house, right? One, you can see how big this house can be. How big a house can you build on this? How many square feet can this house be? Roughly.
20.
30 by 56 times 2. Very rough.
3,000 plus.
This is a 3,600 square foot. Then now, can you go 3 floors and build it bigger? Can you have a fully finished basement and include that? This could be a 6,000 square foot house. All right. You see these little squiggly lines? Anyone have a guess what that is?
The wetlands border or setback.
That's vegetation setback. All right, this dotted line, wetlands setback. Okay. This, see these little round things? Stone wall. Okay,
And John, is it existing stone wall or the same?
existing, but you could see over here, it says RET wall. Retaining wall. You have to build a retaining wall. Why? Because look, this is at 116 and this is at 120. That's higher. Okay, it's 4 feet up. You got to build a retaining wall. So a builder, so when you bring a lot to a builder, if you have this, if this has been done by the seller, then that builder can really do really accurate numbers.
So if the seller of land does this, it's gonna make it a little bit more valuable.
Could be a lot more valuable, okay? Most sellers don't want to go through the trouble. What they'd rather do is have the buyer buy it subject to being able to get something satisfactory like this. But to me, that's a power shift.
And that ties it up for a year.
You can tie it up for a long, now, something like this, I mean, it wouldn't take a year so long as we had wetlands taken care of. But this, you got a septic design. This is a complex plan. Okay. All right.
Oh, one last question on this. before you move on.
Yeah.
Is this some type of guide that we could find somewhere to tell us what all these things mean and we want it? So like, how to read site plans.
Well, here's a
Oh,
bunch.
it's all right on the side.
A lot of it is here, okay? All right, on the side of the plan. And over here is description, wetlands, owner, who the owner is, all these different things, okay?
Just think like, yeah.
Design for the septic, it's a 4-bedroom dwelling, 110 gallons per bedroom, okay? All right, now the idea is when you want to either list or sell new construction, it's good to have a little bit of the terminology down. Okay? When they have those pieces of wood, those are called studs.
Oh, in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, in
The
house.
whole,
I thought you meant. I-
okay, the whole thing is called framing. okay? There's two kinds of roofs that people can have, okay? And people get confused. Oh, you can see my thing. Who knows what kind of roof this is? That's a gable roof. Now, you can have multiple gable roofs on a house. You can have gable roofs coming out, gable roofs on the side, a different gable roof on a garage, okay? And then this kind of roof, hip roof. All right, so you're working with a buyer. They're gonna build a house from scratch with a builder who has a subdivision, numerous lots, and they say to you, I really want to do a finished third floor office. And the builder says, do you want a hip roof or you want a gable roof? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Gable. You want a gable roof. Now look at this hip roof. How the hell are you going to build an office in there? You can't even put a window. Okay? There's no place you can put a skylight. Okay? But otherwise, you got a window that's faced like this. And the other thing is that once you're in an attic, okay, you can't finish right to the walls. You have to have, I think, 4 feet, is it? I don't know, 3.5, 4 feet, what are called knee walls. There's another great term, a knee wall. Sometimes when you see a walkout basement, okay, you have a foundation where the cement goes like this, then it goes like this. And part of it is framed in wood and maybe has a window and siding. Okay, that wall is called a knee wall. Okay. I find that walkouts, they add, why do you think they add a lot of value to a house?
Because it's daylight, it's less humidity.
More space for the money. Okay, same amount of roof, same amount of foundation. Okay, same amount of siding, same amount of heating systems, same amount of kitchens and baths. You're just adding raw space. Okay, so anytime you have a house that has a walkout ability, and today, particularly in COVID and God knows post-COVID for as long as I'll be in the business, people want extra space. Okay, so having that finishable basement, having that finishable attic is a tremendous value. Okay, so oftentimes people will ask, you know, should I have the builder finish it for me or should I get it finished later? Okay, if you have 17 cousins that are all in the trades, then go ahead and finish it later. Okay, otherwise it'll be much cheaper to have the builder do it, generally. Okay, some other terms. Things that have gotten really tricky today are what are called energy codes. Okay, there's what's called the stretch codes. Those are codes that are specific to an area. Okay, there's all you'll see in a lot of homes today. They're doing what's called closed cell insulation. Again, I'm throwing a lot of terms at you just to know that these are things that one needs to think about. Okay, houses are so tight today that when you buy a new house today, people go in and they go, I get a call. I can't turn the damn bathroom fan off. You can't, okay? It's part of the code. You need to move the exchange. Over here, someone says, I am a cook. I'm a great gourmet cook, and I want this kick-ass 6-burner stove and 1,000 CFU fan on top. Well, that's fine, but you're going to also be spending another $2,000 or $3,000 on an air makeup system, okay? Because you can't take all that air and shove it out of the house.
How about for fireplaces? Because I've got a built-in fireplace.
Yeah. They're enclosed, though. They're enclosed.
But you rely, where the combustion air comes from, and if the house is too tight, I've seen them tell you to open the window, which kind of defeats the purpose of having the fireplace.
You know, oftentimes you see in basements now, heating systems, they have pipes for air intake. Okay. The point I really want to drive across is when you think about a house, it's like the structure, that's one thing. When you make a change here, it creates a change over there. Okay, I can't tell you how many times people have said, you know, can we just never use the word just with the people. Never say just. Bad word. Can I just move that wall out 2 feet? Well, it's 2 feet by 30 feet times 2 floors, okay? And now because you're changing the whole type of framing that's being used. You just increase the price of the house by $50,000. Okay, so a good builder can work with you, okay, and help understand what things are cost effective to do and what things are not cost effective to do. Speaking of, the most common question I get a lot of questions. They go, my buyer's making an offer. They're going to make an offer on Joe Schmo's house up there in Hampstead. Is he a good builder? I've probably got that question over 100 times in my real estate career. And you know what my answer is? I have no idea. It is worthwhile to understand whether the builder is a good builder, but what really a good builder is, a good builder who has, anyone know the answer to that? Yeah, track record's good. Reputation's good. Money. A good builder is a well-financed builder. A bad builder who could have the best reputation, the finest skills, could carve out little nookie things, but has no money, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? Because the builder, typically, when you're talking about the builder, the contractor, the general contractor, generally does nothing about building the house. That builder hires what are called subcontractors, which are plumbers, electricians, framers, cement guys, painters, whatever. So the ability of that guy, so if that guy doesn't have a lot of money, or that guy has had issues in other projects, and that's where your research comes in, and the reputation is their financial reputation. Do they complete the job? Okay. Because again, that person could have the greatest skill in the world, but if they haven't paid the last 3 painters they use, and they brought in some painter they found on the side of the street, some guys with the signs, maybe they'll do a good job, maybe they won't do a good job. All right, but that's, and maybe after you, and we're going to talk about warranties in a minute. Okay, so to do the research, is this builder got 3, 4, 5 projects going on? What's a reputation? Ask for a reference.
Say they burn somebody like that, they put a lien on the house, so that we go sell it.
Absolutely. Called the mechanics lien. Has to be on that property. Okay. So, when someone asks, is it a good builder? I mean, you cannot call the town building inspector and ask them. They will not give you that answer. Not in a million years. Okay. You can ask subcontractors. You can try to go to another site that they've been to. So you have so let's switch over. Let's talk about selling new construction. I think that's where I'm at. So the number one question when someone calls me and says they have a buyer and they are looking at new construction. Anyone know what my first question is? What do I need to know to help you?
When they look at close.
No,
What's the already started?
no. Where in the building process are you? Okay, because if the house is basically done and the buyer is picking out carpet, there isn't that much to say. It's pretty much like selling a resale. Okay. On the very flip side is we have a lot that isn't even engineered. They haven't even done the plans yet. Okay. In which case you are got a very big job ahead of you. Okay. Now, I'm going to step back a little. In selling land, the other question I get is agents have buyers who want to buy land to build a house. That scares the crap out of me. Okay. Unless your buyer is sophisticated, unless your buyer has an existing builder relationship, unless that buyer has already built their own house, that's fine. Okay. But I got a call recently from an agent in this office saying, look, my buyer is so frustrated. Okay, they put in 5 offers. They haven't been able to get a house. They found this piece of land in, East Oshkosh, New Hampshire, and they want to buy it and build a house. What do I tell them? And I said, tell them, don't. Run the other way. Okay, because it's a process that will probably take that person 18 months to do. B, it's going to end up costing them a lot more than any resale. Okay, and when you go and try to hire a builder today to build on your lot that you own, they're going to try to make as much profit off of that as if, they own the land from scratch. Right now, in some communities, Boxford, for instance, the builder makes you buy the land and then builds the house. Okay, I don't like that, but if you've got to live in Boxford and that's what you want to do, and the builder's got a great reputation, and your cousin and your uncle all built houses with them, then whatever, go do it. But what happens is you own the land. What happens if that guy, God forbid, gets run over by a truck in the middle of the thing, all right? Or just doesn't finish, or any one of 1,000 things. Now you own a half-built house, okay? So not something I would recommend. So what happens is if the house, though, usually when people come to me, or most instances you'll be in, there'll be a house that will be started. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with like the big merchant builders like Toll Brothers or Pulte or someone like that, it's a little different. Okay. They've got an office. They've got people on site. They're used to taking people through the building process. Okay. Be very careful, though. Those people do not want to pay you a commission. Okay. You must register your buyer with them before you bring them to one of those on-site sales offices. There may come a time again in America where you don't have to do that. But right now, they will do everything to get you out. In fact, in a lot of parts of the country that have all merchant builders, okay, they won't even pay real estate commissions anymore at all. They just say, see you later, not interested, I don't care. If you got a buyer representation contract, then that's your problem. Your buyer can pay you if you want to get that money from them. That's because the demand is so high. But around here, it's very rare. I mean, usually builders are building 2s, 3s, 4s, maybe 5 or 6 lot subdivision. Okay, now there are still, there is Toll and Pulte. They do have some bigger subdivisions. So just be aware of that. All right. So the first thing that you want to look at, so you're with the builder, you're with your buyer. They love this. They see a model house. They love it. Okay, the first thing you want to do is you want to review what are called the specifications. Okay, somewhere here I have sample. So what I do is I will go through with a buyer. I will have a floor plan. You must have a floor plan in front of you. Then you have the specifications. Okay, and the specifications, now some builders, the specifications are going to be kind of, all right, they're not going to give you that much detail. Other builders are going to give you every little bit of detail. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to walk through that house with the buyer. Okay, so you have the specifications, and then you have a floor plan.
And while you're looking that up, are there any requirements for a builder to have this?
No.
Okay, so it could range, it could be like a crappy specification list, very vague and open-ended, or it could be super specific.
Correct.
All right.
So what I would do with the specifications, with my buyer, I would walk into here. And I would say, we are standing in the entry. What is under your feet? What is on the walls? What is on the ceiling? What kind of light fixture? What kind of flooring? What kind of molding? This door, what does this door look like? Is this a mahogany door? Is this a standard door? Is this a door with side lights? Is this a door with transoms? Okay. The more specificity that you have, the happier you will be. As an agent, you should always have a notebook with you when you're dealing in new construction, and you should write everything down. Okay? Every word that comes out of the builder's mouth, every word that comes out of your client's mouth, whether you're buyer or seller, either way. Okay? Because this is a long process. This may be a 5 or 6 month process. It's going to be 1,000 decisions. And when that buyer says to you, I said I wanted side lights on my door, and there's no side lights on the damn door, you better have some notes. Okay? Otherwise, you'll be buying a new door. All right? I walk into the living room. I want a fireplace. There's no fireplace in the living room. What kind of idiot builds a house without a fireplace? Well, okay. How much is a fireplace? Fine, $6,000. Well, what the hell does that include? What is a surround? What's on the floor? what kind of mantle. Just like your belly button, is it an innie or an outie? Okay, in other words, is the fireplace flush with the wall? Okay, and the mechanics is outside the house, or does it come in? Okay, both are good. But now, what about here? Wouldn't it be nice if this was open? There's a wall there. Let's open this up, baby. I love open, right? Can that be done? What does that mean? How far is it open? How many steps open is it? Is it open all the way to here, open to here, open to here? Understand from a builder's perspective, this is a wall, that's drywall. Now we make it open. What does that have to be? Has to be railings, nice railings. It has to have spindles. It has to have banisters and balusters and all these things. And all those things, what do? Add cost. They cost money. Most builders, before you sign a contract, will be willing to be a little flexible in most markets. So if you said to most builders I work with, you know, I really would like to have this open, and this is during the negotiation stage, they'll say, sure, not a problem. It doesn't really cost that much extra money. But I guarantee you, after the contracts are signed, and you come back and say, I would like to make a change, and I want this open, that is going to cost you money. Also, anytime you have to change something, understand the builder paid once to do it, has got to pay to get rid of it, and pay again to redo it. All right. Then we get into the tricky room of the house. Okay, the dining, the kitchen. All right. Kitchen could cost $100,000. Kitchen could cost $30,000. You know, that's where you have to understand the specs. Oftentimes, builder specs on kitchens are very loose, very, very loose. If they just say, you know, my cabinets, cabinets from my supplier, cabinets from my vendor, that's usually the case. Well, go take a visit, get in the car these days, and go see the cabinets, see what you're getting.
I think specs on it.
Oh, Heidi was.
Yeah, I found with new construction, so that they usually give you an allowance, and then you can put whatever you want and pay the vendor of the cabinet the overage.
Right, so they'll say, I'm gonna send you to XYZ Lumber Company, I'm giving you a $20,000 cabinet allowance, and that's great when they do that. But what you need to know, if you're a buyer's representative, is can you get any cabinets for $20,000? What can you get, okay? So this is where, as a listing agent, representing builders, I like to put together a package at a price that a reasonable buyer has to spend nothing extra. Now, that isn't the way it used to be. It used to be everything was about paying for extras. But then this thing called the internet came, okay? And anyone could look up the price of anything. Okay, so you could no longer charge $300 to put a light fixture in. Damn, used to make a lot of money on that. The key, though, is when you read, so let's go back to the specs. Let's see what this builder said about the kitchen. Okay, so we got a 30-year roof. That's good. Here's the windows, a paradigm, casement, easement, you know, whatever that means, if you know. Insulation, it's fairly standard. That's code. 9-foot ceilings. Are the ceilings smooth? Are the ceilings textured today? Pretty much all new construction is smooth. It used to be textured. There is a big difference, though, for some, and some don't care, between what's called blue board. When you go into construction, it's blue. They put plaster on it and then paint the plaster. Okay, that's different from what's called sheetrock, okay, which is gray, and they put tape and they just paint that. Okay, now to a non-discerning eye, it may not make any difference. Okay, over time, it tends to make difference. Okay, because the seams in sheetrock can be exposed. That can be a $8,000 to $10,000 difference in a house. Someone building a $900,000 house is going to do plaster, typically. Okay, this has 2 fireplaces. They're both gas. I haven't seen a builder build a masonry stone fireplace in 10 years, 15 years. Moldings, trim. Again, it says this is kind of molding, this kind of this kind of that. You walk through the house with your buyer. When I say walk through the house, I mean walk through the house on paper. You're writing down, okay? Here's the plumbing, the electrical. Fans, what were we looking for? Kitchen. Oh, design from builder supplier. There you go. Everyone see that? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. In other words, you get what I give you.
If you go on MLS and look at new construction, are there sample specs available on MLS?
Some, many times there are, okay? I'm one of those listing agents I don't put on generally. Because I want someone to pick up the phone and call me and ask. I want to know who's looking
I
at my
just
phone.
wanted to see sample, get a range.
Oh, there's a ton. I mean, yeah, I can send you some if you send me an email, all right? Yeah, so here's a really good example. Design from builder supplier, cherry kitchen cabinets. What the hell does that mean? Okay, so now, if this is a builder that's built 3 houses in the subdivision and you can take your buyer over with the builder and say, they are the same as lot 2. Cool, I'm good with that because it's something in writing I can write down. Now, what's going to happen is when you put together a contract, okay, now you, as a listing agent, I do this. A lot of, listing agents for other builders may not do this, but I would insist on it as a buyer's rep, is you're going to include these, okay? And when you write your offer, you're going to say, subject to the attached specifications.
Where does the buyer's lawyer fit into this?
Oh, absolutely, okay? They're going to review it, but the lawyer should not be getting involved in how many light fixtures are out, okay? Now, then I do another exhibit, okay, which is called changes and additions to the standard specifications. Never, in my opinion, change the standard specifications. Never edit, never add anything to it. You're asking for trouble, okay?
But once it's out in the world, never change.
Never, well, you could change it on a different house. What I'm saying is, let's say I'm selling this house, I'm writing an offer in this house, and I cross off, something here and change it on the specifications. That's going to get lost.
You mean he was a buyer?
As a buyer's agent, when you put together a purchase and sale agreement, okay, you want to have this subject to the standard specifications and in an offer, subject to the attached additions and changes to the standard specifications. So what that's going to look like is, it's going to look like, all right, see this appliance allowance, $4,000 from Barron's Appliance? Fine, you're leaving. Then in my additions, I'm going to say, at the top, I'm going to say, to be included at the sale price of, say, $6,000 appliance allowance. Okay? I'm going to say, subject to 532 recessed lights, subject to adding a paver patio.
Will you be sharing with us some things to write in an offer to buyer agent?
Of course.
Text buyer today?
Of course.
John, what if, after the purchase and sale is signed, there are some special requests?
That is called a change order. Okay, must be in writing.
And who creates it?
Typically what you would do, you would go to the builder and you would say, my buyer wants to change the study and put in double closets in the study. And the builder will say, okay, I can do that, and it's $500. And you could say, and he should, or she should put together a change order, which says adding cabinets, it becomes an addendum to the purchase and sale that should be sent to a lender.
So the builder's rep is gonna create that change order.
They should. Now, one of the biggest problems that I have as a listing agent in new construction is that buyers talk directly to subcontractors, and they say to the subcontractor, I was just thinking, could we do a purple stain on these floors? And the subcontractor flooring guy says, yeah, you could do that. And then you come back to the house 3 days later and the floors are purple and you get a bill for $7,000. You must counsel your buyer, and if you're working with your builder, to say that any changes, anytime you want money, it's got to be signed and in writing, or you're not getting the money. Okay, and do not ever take direction directly from subcontractors. And you should tell your buyers never give direction to subcontractors unless they're prepared to pay whatever the subcontractor chooses. Okay, you go, you know what? Oh my God, I forgot to tell you, I want my daughter's room pink. Oh, sure, no problem, we'll paint it pink. $600, thank you. Okay, so those, I mean, again, remember that walk through every room, look at the floor, look at the walls, look at the ceiling. I want to have the back left bedroom pink. That gets written there, okay? Sometimes builders will say with paint, everything's gonna be one color. And so you can say in your thing, I want to have 3 colors. Okay? Now, the builder may come back and say, well, it's actually $200 a color. You may say, fine. Okay, it's a question of expectation versus reality. And boy, I've dealt with some horrible things. Some of them my fault. Okay, well, I had a guy who wanted the ceilings painted a certain color, and I misunderstood him. All right, and they painted the ceiling the wrong color. I didn't pay for it, but believe me, I didn't get the resale listing. I'll tell you that much. Which another thing is, look, it's a tough business, guys. All right. One of the things, I don't know if I pride myself in or slap myself for, I very rarely get to relist houses that I sell as a buyer, as a builder's representative. That's because they view me as the builder. They don't view me as being on their side. And you know why they don't view me as being on their side?
Because you're not.
Because I'm not.
You're not.
I am representing the interest of the builder. Okay, and you, working with the buyer, should be representing the interest of the buyer. All right, let's talk about inspections in new construction. Big area of confusion and unhappiness. As a listing agent, what I may say to you is, you know what? All the town inspectors are going to come through here. It's the wiring inspector, the plumbing inspector, the foundation inspector. You don't need it.
You already done all that to get the like get permits?
No. That's real-time inspection in the field. All right. If you're representing a buyer, do not depend on town inspectors' inspections, okay? Oftentimes, they show up, the builder gives them a cup of coffee, they shoot the shit, and the guy leaves and signs the card, okay? There's always a card. What a card means, it's a building permit. And if you look at a building permit, it says plumbing inspection, foundation inspection, electrical inspection, framing inspection. All those have to be signed by all those town inspectors. And then at the end, they go and they get what's called a certificate of occupancy. Once you have that fully signed card, okay, then you get what's called the CO, certificate of occupancy.
When you talked about getting the permits last time with the land, does your PNS include that it has to have an occupancy permit or the deal falls apart?
Any attorney is going to have that. You cannot transfer property in Massachusetts.
No, but when you,
or New
when you
Hampshire.
make the purchase and sale agreement, that I'm gonna buy this house, is that a condition?
I'm not doing, yes, the seller's attorney will put it in there, or the buyer's attorney will put it. That's very standard language. You have to have a certificate of occupancy. You can't move in. Okay, now, in some towns, you gotta be a little careful. They require a separate smoke cert. Other towns do not. They consider that the fire department sign off is sufficient. It never hurts to have 2 pieces of paper instead of 1. Back in the day, now what happens is, so when you're selling this new house, I got to talk about inspections and financing. I don't want to mess. Financing is another big one. But to finish on inspections, when the house isn't built yet, you cannot have a 2-week inspection period. Everyone good with that?
Correct.
Okay. You cannot have, no seller builder in their right mind would allow any contingent inspection. Okay, in other words, it can't be, I can walk away if I'm dissatisfied a week before closing. Can't happen, okay? But that doesn't preclude you from having an inspection. If you are representing a buyer, you should hire an inspector. And that inspection should take place at least a week before closing. The other thing is with banks, it used to be that we could, what happens is the bank will send an appraiser. Now, how does a bank appraise a house that doesn't exist? They're going to appraise the house based on the plans and the specifications on the contract. Okay, then the appraiser is going to come out, usually somewhere in the middle sometime, and take a look and see how it's going. And they're going to do what's called a final walkthrough, a final appraisal. And it better be done. All right. Back in the day, the banks were, all right, they wasn't so bad, and they did it the morning of closing. Now, most of the banks want at least a week. Okay, I can't tell you how many arguments I had back 8, 10 years ago when this was all hitting the fan after the recession in 2008. Okay, the banks became really, really cautious, all right? And they wanted to see that house 100%. That meant if there was a garage door missing that was being delivered that afternoon and the buyer couldn't care less, it doesn't matter, bank isn't releasing the money, okay? So you really want your ducks in a row. You do not want to be selling a house to a buyer that must be in on August 31st or any specific date, because it probably isn't going to happen. Today, it definitely isn't going to happen. There's just so many problems with delivery of everything.
John, with the inspection that would be the week before closing, if issues came up, does the buyer have anything?
What the buyer does is the buyer does what's called a punch list, okay? Now, in the purchase and sale agreement that the buyer's attorney okayed, there should be punch list language, okay? Most builders will include some of their own punch list language, okay? Now, some things are seasonal that cannot be done, in which case, sometimes the bank will require and the builder will allow what's called an escrow. Okay, so we're closing in January. We can't do the lawn, we can't do the sprinkler system. Maybe we got a second coat to do in the driveway, right? So you can have you can have just an agreement that those things will be done with no exchange of money. You can have a bank that requires money to be escrowed. The assumption is that the builder is escrowing the money. That is not automatic. The bank doesn't care who escrows the money. The buyer cares who escrows the money, and the seller cares who escrows the money, and it's traditional and typical that the builder is escrowing the money because he's already accounted for paying for that second coat in the driveway and the lawn. That doesn't mean he has to. The buyer could. Again, the bank doesn't care. The bank cares that the work is done.
It's just an interesting story. I sold a new construction home like 5 or 6 years ago. The builder was supposed to come back from the spring and do another coat, a top coat or whatever, and they escrowed like $4,000 or $5,000 or something. He's never come back to do it. The money continues to stay in the escrow account.
Whose money was it?
Oh, it would have been the
builder's
builder's
money.
money.
Was escrowed into an escrow account. He's supposed to come back and finish the driveway. He doesn't care about the extra $4,000 or $5,000. Just moved on to the next project.
All right, so this is why you must have, if you're representing a buyer, you must have a good attorney, okay?
Set a limit on the escrow fund. If it doesn't do it before X.
Then the money is automatically released, right?
I don't know what happened.
And it has to be sufficient escrow. So again, protecting a buyer is very different here than protecting a seller, okay? You're very much in different camps when it comes to escrows and finishing, okay? I can't tell you how many lists I've been forced to sign, and I shouldn't as an agent, but I have many times, okay? That, yeah, you see these, I've had lists that were 75, 80 items long, okay? But what you have is a buyer who's desperate to close. This all comes back to what I said earlier about what makes a good builder. Money, money, money. When you come to a closing and a house isn't finished and there's a 50-item escrow list, punch list, I guarantee you the reason is shortage of funds. Okay, and now occasionally there are other reasons. Okay, or sometimes it's just something that hasn't been delivered. Okay, they wanted the specialized pantry door with etched glass, and that didn't get delivered. Okay, no one's had a problem with that. Okay, that's a specialty item. It didn't get delivered. You know, the builder will put it in. Okay, when you have 50 items, okay, that this is crooked, that is crooked, this isn't in right. But that's why it's so important to have that inspection. Now, if you have the inspection too early, the inspector's going to get frustrated. Our inspectors you can hire that can do a 2-step inspection. Okay, so they'll do an inspection like a month before to see that things are going good. Again, if I was buying the house, I would do that. Okay, selling the house, stay away. Okay, I don't want to see any inspections. Let's get a couple minutes. So with the financing, let's talk about financing. Most people buying new construction, they got to sell a house, right? It's a new house from scratch. It's going to take 6 months, okay, to build a house. it's too early for the folks to put the house on the market. Okay, now, in a perfect world, for the seller, for the builder, yeah, they're gonna sell their house, there's gonna be no financing contingency. Okay, but generally, most of the contracts that I see in moderately priced houses will have a financing contingency. And the builder just has to make a decision. Okay, and say, does this look like a good, clean situation? Okay, but you can't get more than a 60-day rate lock, right? And if the house is gonna take 120 days to finish, that buyer can't even get a commitment. Okay, can't even start a commitment process for 60 days. So this is, it's a tightrope line. So if you're the buyer's agent, you want to not have any financing contingency. The buyer's putting down on a new build, usually the builder wants 10%. And usually they want the money released to them. Okay, this is not something that makes buyers' attorneys happy. Okay. Many buyers understand, particularly if there's a fair amount of customization. Okay, but pretty much all builders, all sellers will give the buyer back a second mortgage or some kind of note protecting the deposit. Again, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but what the takeaway should be, hire a good attorney.
What I found is that if they have a lot of extras, that those are always cash and they will be lost if they want. Because if they're customizing to the buyer's needs, and that may not suit the next buyer.
The more customization, right. So if someone wanted a bunch of extras, I would require it to be non-refundable. Okay. Typically, most deposits, it's released to the builder. It's in essence non-refundable. You can cry and scream all you want, but other than issues of title, okay, it's always refundable on title. Okay, but other than issues of title, if you can find the guy, most deposits are generally not refundable, because look, the builder doesn't, this is the difference between a baby builder who's building one house at a time and a builder that has maybe a subdivision, who's building 5, 6, 8, or 10 houses. Okay, so you give me a 10% deposit on $1 million house, I got $100,000 in your money, I'm going to start building that house. Honestly, if you walk, I probably don't even care, because I'm going to sell it for more money. Okay, once the house is built. Okay, that doesn't mean I want that to happen, but I'm not wildly unhappy, because what the builder wants is they want the signed P&S, because what can they do with that signed P&S? Finance it. They can't get their construction loan potentially without the signed P&S. They want the signed P&S and they want your $100,000. Okay, and the hungrier the buyer is for that, the better deal you can strike. Okay, just know that. I mean, the first house in the Melrose subdivision I did, we gave these people amazing upgrades, but they gave us a $200,000 deposit before the road was built. Okay, what was that worth to the builder? Huge, huge amount of money. Okay, so you gave the guy, we gave him an extra kitchen. They wanted like a summer kitchen. All right. What else do I have here? So anyway, so you're putting together the whole package, P&S, specs, floor plan with any etchings or changes. I'd like to show it on the floor plan. Okay, I'm going to have the warranty. Every builder has to have a warranty in Massachusetts. I think in New Hampshire as well. I'm not sure about it. Okay, it has to be a 1-year warranty. Okay, and the buyer should actually read it. Okay, oftentimes there are many exclusions in the warranty, often to do with things like landscaping. Okay, what happens is buyers buy houses and they let the grass die. They think the builder's going to come back and put new lawn in. Good luck with that. Okay.
It's mandatory in Mass, you're not sure.
I'm not sure in New Hampshire whether, I'm pretty sure. Does anyone know? Does a general contractor have to offer a 1-year limited warranty in New Hampshire? I don't know.
Is that warranty standard from the state? That can be
No, just has to be. Okay, so then you're ready to close. You do what's called the final walkthrough. Now you should do a number of walkthroughs. If it's really a new build from scratch, okay, you should be doing what's called a frame walkthrough. So once all the wood is framed, okay, you ought to do a walkthrough. I mean, as a listing agent, I would insist that we do a frame walkthrough. At that point, if you need to make a little change, make that closet a little bigger, you got a guy with a hammer. Okay, it takes 5 minutes. What, I'm exaggerating, but it's reasonably doable. Okay? Later on, it could be a huge deal to make that change. Okay? Then you have what are called the roughs. Okay, so that's the stuff behind the wall. So that's the wires and the plumbing. Okay? Once that's done, now you ought to do it in a more expensive house, particularly, but even in a moderately priced house, you ought to do a walkthrough before the electrician and the plumber come. Okay? Where do you want your phone jack? Where do you want, this? Where do you want that? You have to have a kitchen design. The plumber and electrician need to know where's the refrigerator going. You got to plug the dang thing in. Okay, you need a water line for your refrigerator. But after that work is done, you should do another walkthrough. Okay, because at that point, because you have all studs and wood exposed, and it's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I wanted 3 recessed lights in my kids' room. Well, adding it at that point, going to cost you, but nowhere as much as it would cost you if the house was finished. Does that all make sense? So then the walls get put up, they get closed, all the inspections happen, okay? But ultimately, at the end, you can do what's called a final walkthrough. I mean, it's nice to do it a couple weeks ahead of time and then do another one right before. So if you can give a builder a nice punch list of things like a couple weeks ahead of time, then the builder can hand those out to his subs. Then chances are you're going to have a very clean, comfortable, nice closing. Okay, if you're coming, if you don't do that, and as a listing agent representing the builder, I love seeing the customer on site because if we can catch something early that's wrong, okay, it's going to save my client money and it's going to make for a happier buyer. It is 12 o'clock. I know it's a lot of stuff, guys. My goal was to just kind of scrape the surface,
Wet the whistle.
wet the whistle.
I'll get some things that we should write into an offer as a buyer agent.
I'm always available. Always available to take a phone call. Often I've reviewed offers many times with agents. I did one last weekend. Okay, agent was writing an offer, new construction. They sent it to me. I reviewed it. We made a couple of changes. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you,
John.
John. That was great. Thank you.